Hello and welcome to the Infinity Saga and Beyond, an MCU fan podcast. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, on this these Wednesday episodes talking X-Men '97 is Ron. How you Ron?
I'm doing very good, man. We had an amazing cap off to this season that we'll get into today. We had a ton of announcements in the last few days, even some rumors floating around today that have excited me personally. So a lot of fun stuff to get into today for sure, and I'm stoked to break it all down with you like always.
Yeah, of course. What you're referring to is there was the Disney upfronts that had some stuff. There was also Fantastic Four casting that happened. When was that? Was that like? It feels like the Galactus casting was a while ago, but was that really like after we recorded, like the next day or something?
I think so. Maybe even that night
Yeah,
after we got off. Yeah, it was about a week ago. Yeah.
feels like a long time ago. Um,
hmm
but yeah, so we have like that casting. Then there's casting news today from Fantastic Four. We have release date for Agatha. We have an official title. We have what shows are going to be premiering next year. Got a lot of that on top of X-Men '97 episode 10, the season finale. We'll talk the quick hit stuff, like you said. There's some rumors too. I don't know how much we want to get into those. But I guess let's start with the official stuff.
Yeah.
So today, I think it was Hollywood Reporter had the exclusive at first, and I think other ones have put it up there now that Natasha Lyonne is going to be in the Fantastic Four. And I saw a few people say this, but you're somebody that said this as well. Who do you think she's playing, Ron?
My first initial thought was Alicia Masters, who is the wife of the Thing. I think of like Natasha Lyonne's personality and kind of like that. She like almost kind of reminds me of Rogue a little bit, like just like her kind of carefree, like sort of no nonsense kind of like way that she carries herself. Not just like not as a character and anything, but just kind of like the aura she gives off to me, no matter who she's playing. So I think that would very much play well off of Ben Grimm's more, I guess, kind of reserved, kind of insecure like nature. Like I think it would be if that's who they cast her as. I think it would be a really good dynamic between the actors themselves, especially given the characters that they'll be playing.
Yeah, they're around the same age bracket, I think, too. So that
Yeah, like 2 years
yeah.
apart. Yeah.
We have Ralph Ineson. Is that how you say it? He's been in a lot of stuff. He's going to voice Galactus. He does a lot of voice work.
hmm
But I know him as Finchy from the British Office. He was in the British original Office with Ricky
Oh,
Gervais and Stephen Merchant and all them. So that is, what'd be fun is like a 6 Degrees game for the MCU, because you can go from like
yeah.
him to um Martin Freeman, right? Because he was in the British
Yeah.
Office. And then you'd be able to
Mhm.
link him with Sherlock, Benedict Cumberbatch. So you link him to Strange. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just like so
Yeah.
many people
And
that
you
you
can
can
link him to
connect it.
other Sherlock, who is Robert Downey
Yes, yeah,
Jr.
that you could.
Just keep going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just it's like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, only it's just Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, he has a great voice. I think it'll be great to hear
Oh
him
yeah.
as Galactus. I wonder if they have Galactus not as a cloud, will he also be like the face of Galactus, or do they have like another design in mind type of thing, or like is he going to be kind of the face and the voice of Galactus? That's what I wonder.
I think it would be something they would be a lot more willing to play around with if the running gag wasn't the Galactus cloud from the first movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer, excuse me. Um, it just it seems like they've got to really go more traditional, like when people think of Galactus, like what you know, the big purple helmet and all that stuff, because really all that is in the comic, that's not his true form. That's just the form that like humanity sees him through. So assuming that the sort of lens of this story is going to be told through, or obviously the story is going to be told through the Fantastic Four, but just in the sense that it'll also be like their point of view. It's not like the Watcher, you know what I mean, telling this story, something like that. Um, you would stand to believe that the perspective of him that we would get would be that more traditional kind of design that we're used to. I the only place that I know this actor from is a really small role in Game of Thrones, but he's just got that low
Yeah, yeah.
voice, like is perfect for Galactus. So even though I'm not super familiar with his work, uh, the little that I have seen, he would be perfect for it. Luckily, it's not something that requires. I mean, obviously, it requires a lot of talent, but I feel like Galactus, because he's just such a simple-minded, one-track goal kind of like character. Really, you just kind of need someone that more embodies the vibe than somebody who's going to come in and deliver like a De Niro performance. You know what I mean?
Kind of want to see De Niro now as Galactus. Um,
I'm gonna eat your world, eh?
that is like I do think they won't do the cloud. I think they'll do the normal. I mean, like they've kind of built up to it with like celestial beings, right? Like we're used to seeing humanoid figures in space in the MCU, so I do think that that's how they'll
Mhm.
lean with that. Um,
Well, I think the best piece of like if you want an idea of the what they could be going for, just watch Eternals back and look
right,
at the
exactly.
Celestials and the way that they handled that, and like that shot at the end when you see Arishem just like looking over the earth when he plucks them off like that. Instantly, when I saw that in theaters, I was like, that's exactly how they should do Galactus. Like again, like that megalophobia, like bigger than your mind could even comprehend, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Um, I do want to just point out, and I know we kind of like rail against the scoopers a lot. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm going to continue that because
Yeah.
they were way off.
Especially the ones that put it behind a paywall and try to make
Yeah,
money off it. That's
they were
just
way off on this, and I don't want to hear
Mhm,
plans changed or anything. From what other people had said, they were looking for somebody that has really good. Like I think people said that they were looking for someone that had voice acting experience. This
mhm.
guy's been voicing in video games and all this kind of stuff uh, for a long time, and that's who they went with. I don't think who was the rumors Antonio Banderas
Javier
and Javier
Bardem.
Bardem. I think that's fake. I don't think that was ever even close to being the case because none of them have had that sort of experience with voice acting or anything. So I,
Mhm.
it's just they throw stuff at walls to see what sticks, and then it
Yeah.
comes way out on the left field. And this feels like a Sarah Haley Finn casting.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they weren't even close. I think in that, and then we also got two more casting scoops: John Malkovich and Paul
Mhm.
Walter Hauser, who actually just said something today about officially being in the movie. I think before it was just like uh, links to him being in the film, but
Yeah, like the trades had put it
yeah,
out, but
yeah.
there was no official quotes. But he didn't he made a mention, I forget what the exact quote was, but something about, like, having a small role or something like that, or did I just make that up? I thought it was like, play my small part, or, like, he said
Oh,
something
I
along
don't
those
know,
lines. Oh, okay.
but
Yeah, it
yeah,
was one of those things that you can either take as he meant like literally a small role, or if it was like, oh, I'm here to play my small part in this much grander like thing, where it could still be a pretty notable role without uh just being like some
yeah, like
tiny
Paul Walter
little
Hauser is
nothing.
like Doom or something.
Yeah, yeah. That would be a visual. But yeah, he's another one I'm not too super familiar with. Everyone seems to be hopping on the Herbie train for him,
I,
which I mean,
I know him from I Think You Should Leave.
is he in that?
Yes, yes,
Oh, I got to go back. I never would have even realized that, and I just watched it. I mean, what did I tell you? Like 2 months ago,
yeah.
like I just binged it all, and I didn't even make the connection. So I'll have
He
to go back and.
he was the the character that is in the play trying to keep his line from going to Jamie Taco, who always keeps trying to steal his line, and he's the guy.
Right.
Yes. Yes, that's Paul Walter
Okay.
Hauser's
Okay.
role where he's
Okay.
like, when they're at the friend's house and they're all like ragging on their wives, and he's like, "No, I actually like my wife." That's Paul Walter Hauser. So
Okay.
that's how I know him from. But he was in like other stuff apparently. But yeah, um, Malkovich. Uh, what do we think there? I know some people are like, "Oh, all these three are going to be like villains or something," and like maybe in like a I saw some theory that was like these three, meaning Galactus and then Malkovich and Paul Walter Hauser, would be like villains in a montage. Maybe not Galactus, but these two that kind of catch you up on the celebrity status of the Fantastic Four. And you have like Mole Man as one of them, or you
Yeah.
have, I'm thinking more like you said, he maybe one of them's Herbie, maybe Malkovich is like the doorman of the Baxter building. I don't know. Like they don't have to be. Yeah, they don't have to be like big roles.
Yeah, no, they don't. Um, it's if we didn't already have all this like weird Kang stuff that's happened and like the kind of subtle nods to Nathaniel Richards that we'd already gotten, I think it would have been really cool to have him be Nathaniel Richards, who is Reed's dad,
What
obviously in
if
the
he's
comics.
the Storm's parents? Like Johnny and
Could
Sue's
be.
dad.
Yeah, that could be. That could be
Because
too.
he plays a role a lot in the comics, depending on what arc you read, of like being part of that team that gets them into space and all that kind of stuff. So like
Mhm.
yeah, that's where my mind went to, and then everybody else started thinking of like villain roles. But I think that would be really cool if he's like Sue's dad.
Yeah. I mean, whatever it is, I think it's going to be a pretty sizable role. I don't think you have John Malkovich come into your movie to just, play to do a Stan Lee
That's what I was gonna
cameo.
say,
Like,
like the like the doorman,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the
Or like
mailman in X
Bruce
Men when
Campbell.
Stanley comes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't think that they would be doing that here. So either way, yeah, I think I do expect it to be a pretty sizable role. I think the chalk answer is definitely Mole Man, like you said, but there's some cool other possibilities out there they could take it.
I'm not big on Mole Man.
Yeah,
Like
he just feels very campy and just
yeah,
very like a weird choice. And also, how does he? If the now that we know for certain the big villain of the movie is Galactus, like where does he fit into that? Unless it's just one of
like a
like the opening scene
opening
is
scene.
them taking him out, and like that's you're gonna bring in John Malkovich for that? Like, no. So yeah, we'll see, I guess. But there's a lot of cool options out there.
Yeah, I mean, I know Mole Man a lot from the Ultimate run, and he was really gross in that run. And yeah, he is campy, weird. Um, I wouldn't trust anyone other than maybe James Gunn or somebody of that like to do Mole Man.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yep.
it'd be like having a Batman movie and being like, "Here's Condiment King." You're like, "This is who we're having him face off against." Like,
I will say, to be fair, like Mole Man is definitely one of the most iconic
well, yeah, he's
Fantastic Four
bigger, but I mean,
villains.
like when you get to like cringy, like, yeah,
Yeah, what he
yeah,
is,
yeah.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, and then we also had the Disney upfronts, and they confirmed Agatha's title was Agatha All Along. And I don't mean it's just called
Shocker.
Agatha. I mean the show is called Agatha All Along. And all those fake titles were fake titles. And I do wonder. I'm thinking that wasn't the original plan. I'm thinking they did change the title once, and then after that, they were like, "Oh, let's keep changing and have it be like this thing." Because this thing has been for like 3 years changing itself. Like I
Yeah.
think House of Harkness was the official name, and then when they
Mhm.
reworked the show or when they were actually writing it, they were like, "Why don't we do something fun with it?" You know?
Yeah. Well, I there was a scoop that went around like I want to say a year and a half ago that basically laid out that all of these titles were going to be like intentionally
Yeah.
misleading. So it was either a really good guess by that I forget who even leaked it at first, or it wasn't. I don't I don't know. It's one of those things that I guess we'll never really have the answer to. But either way, even if that wasn't their plan all along, I think it was very kind of genius marketing to do so. It's very, very Agatha to kind of do that, to keep you on edge, not really sure what it is, and all the, the changes, and it felt very Agatha coded, like going about it that way, and then to bring it all back around with Agatha All Along, because like if you're going to go through all these titles and then land back on that, that feels a little weird to me. It feels more likely that this was the title all along, and then they did indeed intentionally release all those. I mean, especially the one they released 2 days ago, The Lying Witch with Great Wardrobe.
Yeah.
That one was definitely
that one was, and they even deleted it, but then they still referenced it in the video, which is weird. It's like, why did you delete it then?
The president of marketing at Marvel replied to it, and he was like, "What is going on?" or something like this. So, like,
he was
very much playing.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, it should be cool. I guess they released like a little trailer with it as well. I don't have the transcript in front of me. It didn't really seem like it was like they gave away anything that was going to be mind blowing anyway. But it'll be cool. Cool to see the Witch's Road and stuff. I'm a big Aubrey Plaza guy. I've loved her since Parks and Rec. So I'll watch anything that she's in. And yeah, it should be a great little program when it comes out. A little earlier than we expected.
Yeah, September 18th, 2 episodes. Casey McGeorge has covered that show, like covered WandaVision with me and a few of those. I know he really wants to dive into that, so maybe we'll have like a 3-person panel, or maybe
that'd be cool.
Out on paternity still. We'll find out.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
Daredevil and Ironheart are the 2025 shows. Daredevil launching in 2025 in March. 9 episodes. I think that means for season 1, or maybe they got rid of season 2. We don't know. But Charlie Cox said they filmed 9, and the rumor was, I think, that they're supposed to go back and film more later this year. So I would assume that would be the season 2, that the second half of the 18 that they originally talked about, but we'll see.
Yeah. Luckily, Daredevil is one of those shows where like you can go in and film a lot in a short amount of time, because it doesn't require the VFX of a cosmic project or like a Marvel's, something like that. So it's a lot easier to film quickly and get it in the can. And yeah, I'd imagine they probably are going to go back and film. I originally thought that they were filming all 18 at once, and then they were just going to release them in 2 parts. But I guess that's not the case.
Well, I think once they had to revamp it, it may have been like we're going to they might even decide to wait a little bit and be like, let's see how this goes, and then renew the show. Instead of just kind of sinking right into it, because they've had to refilm so much that I think they might be kind of reworking that. But also, it's like they need time to rewrite it. Then at this point, like we know that they rewrote the 9 episodes, and now they're probably gonna have to sit back and write the other 9. I'd rather this though. I mean, I don't want them to put out 18 if they're not ready to put out 18. Like if they went under huge changes, let's see what it is, right? Like it sounds like from what the crowd said from that upfront with the description of the trailers and stuff, it felt very Daredevil. Which is good. That's what I wanted. I don't want him to take 4 episodes to put on his mask like the rumor was for the original.
Yeah. And for all we know, maybe the original plan was to film all 18 up front, but then it was like they got to episode like 5 and they were like, this isn't going to work. And that was when like the revamp happened, and they were like, all right, we can't then go and film another 18. So let's, like you said, let's just take the 9. Let's see how it does. Let's see how it, even if it's not waiting until the release, because I don't think they would wait all the way.
Waiting to see how it is when they're like in post and like, oh yes, this is good. We feel better now.
yeah, like maybe like go back to filming in the fall sort of thing. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be cool. That's what I'm excited for. One of 2 Daredevil things that have happened in the past couple days here, as we'll get into with this X-Men episode. But I just
rumors
really quick before we get what
did you want to talk to rumors? Is that what you're getting into?
Yeah, just there was just one in particular that I have to mention because I'm just I'm not the world's biggest Nova fan, but I'm definitely the biggest Nova fan in the show. I can tell you that much. Nova has been my favorite non-mutant comic character for almost the entire time I've been reading comics, and it's been quite the roller coaster this last couple years of the projects in development. Oh, it's not in development anymore. Oh, now they're going to make it a spotlight. Nope, it's dead again. Oh, now it's back. It seems like a lot of different scoopers, whatever you want to call them, are kind of on the same page with this today, that we are indeed finally getting it. It's going into production next year, not just one of those things that's in development and we might see it in 10 years, like actual production next year. And it's going to be based on Sam and Richard, Sam Alexander and Richard Rider. And I just have to say I'm super super stoked, because like finally I feel like I've been waiting every day for this forever to finally get some concrete news outside of just in development, not in development, in development, not in development, to actually get some solid story beats on what might be happening. It raised a lot of questions for me, because Sam and Richard don't team up in the comics until after both of their entire sort of like solo runs finish up. So there's a lot of stuff that they would be skipping if they jumped right to that. But they can easily probably incorporate some of that stuff into it and do what Marvel does, like make it its own story sort of thing. So just Nova fans rejoice. Hopefully we don't get another notification in 2 days saying, oh, actually it's back and just in development, and we'll see. But this is the closest I think it's felt like we've been so far. And basically, I'm just going to have my eye on that San Diego Comic-Con from now until July, just hoping that that's when we'll get an announcement for it.
Yeah, and then there was a rumor that just broke today that Hawkeye is being renewed for a season 2.
Oh, I missed that one.
Yeah,
Huh.
from My Time to Shine.
Oh,
So
boy.
we'll see how accurate that is if it comes. By the time that show comes out, it'll be like 2027, 2028, and we'll be like
Yeah.
7 to 8 years after the original show.
Like Secret Wars and all that stuff. Like, yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll see. But yeah, that's most of it here. So I think we can dive into X-Men.
The reason we're really here today.
Yeah, Tolerance is Extinction Part 3, written by Beau DeMayo and Anthony Sellitti. Sorry. Directed
There
by
we go.
Chase Conley. Synopsis: The X-Men's dream is put to the test as mutant-human relations reach a tipping point, and it aired May 15th, 2024 on Disney+. I don't know where you want to start with this, Ron, but I'll let you start with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing cap to an amazing season. They had to stick the landing in this one, and they did tenfold. There was admittedly some moments where I was a little nervous that it was going to be a soft landing in the beginning, but they very much sort of went a different path than I thought they were going to towards a softer landing, and they didn't. They just incorporated aspects that like they would make you think that they were going to win, and then they weren't, and then it just the back and forth of the episode, like my heart was in my stomach the whole time. Like I was just on edge, just wondering what was going to happen next. It was cameos galore, as we saw. They even took the thing that I specifically said I didn't want them to do between Charles and Magneto and spun it in a way that made it a little more palatable and made it make a little more sense, so that it wasn't just Magneto going back on everything that he's like stood for and everything that's been building up with him this season. They didn't just throw all that away and like in the classic comic book tropey kind of way. Bastion was great. Just everything about the episode was fantastic. I don't even know where the hell we should dive in. I guess we could just do what we always do and go off the top.
Yeah, so I guess let's get the cameo talks out of the way, because you asked last week, where are the Avengers? We do start to see where they are, right? We, like I mentioned, I think some of them are probably doing street level stuff, and that's what Daredevil is doing. He's out there making sure people aren't looting. You get Cloak and Dagger even showing up here.
That one was like, I was like, whoa, all right, we're really, really getting into the bag here, and I love it.
Yeah, getting Cloak and Dagger. We get Iron Man and Cap with the president. So they're definitely talking about hey, so all those people saying Cap wasn't helping, um, he was trying to stop the president from doing what he did here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there you go. We got Black Panther, though. I'm reading it was T'Chaka and not
It
T'Challa.
was yes, it was T'Chaka, which would make sense if this is in the 90s.
Maybe T'Challa did show up, I think, in one of these, didn't he? Didn't he show up in? Maybe not.
I think we saw Black Panther, but they never confirmed it was T'Challa. So I'm assuming that
And
it
it
just
sounds
was
like from
T'Chaka.
what Beau DeMayo said is it wasn't his choice. So I do wonder.
Oh, hmm.
Um, there was rumors that Marvel doesn't really want to touch T'Challa now with Chadwick passing, but this is a whole different universe. I feel like you can let that go.
Yeah. Also, wasn't T'Challa in What If
But
after
he had
Chadwick passed
recorded
away?
his lines already. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, so they're weird about anybody else playing him, which didn't even Chadwick's family say they would like to see somebody else in the role, so
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
weird.
really get it. Like initially, like you're not going to recast him the next year, obviously, but like if you have the family's blessing and with this amount of time that's passed, and we already had the beautiful memorial for
Yeah.
him with Wakanda Forever, like eventually, like what are you just going to never? He's one of the most like notable and well loved characters in all of Marvel comics. You're just going to never use him again. Like we've got to move on. Unfortunately.
That's why I thought they named his son T'Challa was to
Yeah.
be like age him up and be like, here's T'Challa the Black Panther without like
Yeah.
technically recasting. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
but I think in another universe like this, if that's the case, like just let them use him. He doesn't like we're not beholden to Chris Evans being Cap. Like we have different people voicing Cap. Like I think that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And again, even if like his family has said it's okay, so like right there, that should be enough. Like, who are you really doing it for at that point?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure he would want other people portraying this
Oh
character.
God, yeah. Oh, for sure.
So we also got Peter and MJ watching
Yeah, he
the
found her.
TV. Um,
Yes.
we've got Doctor Strange doing surgery.
Mm-hmm.
We had Psylocke.
Yes. There was a couple that even I didn't recognize. I was like, eh.
Yeah, really. I mean, like, those are the only pictures I have. I didn't share them on the screen here, but
Yeah, the rest are well. I mean, I guess we're talking about this scene specifically, but like later in the episode when Charles and Magneto are having their like little meeting of the minds, and he looks out on the boat, like Wanda and Quicksilver are there,
yes,
and
yeah, when
Polaris is
Rogue
there.
is there and
Well, there
stuff.
are some
Yeah,
others too, but those are maybe basically the main ones. But I do like that they did show MJ with Peter because, as we know, the Spider-Man animated series, it a lot of people had a gripe with it because it ended off on a cliffhanger with Peter basically like teaming up with our favorite web slinging superhero, Madam Web, and basically going to like find MJ. And for some reason, they thought, at least like what I've seen from quotes and stuff about after the series ended, that they thought that people would assume that, oh, he finds MJ and they live happily ever after. I don't really know where they would have got that from, having seen the episode, but it was nice. And Beau DeMayo confirmed it on Twitter, that obviously that they, you know, he found her in that moment, and there's no variant shenanigans or none of that stuff going on. It's his MJ, and they are living happily ever after, or I guess as happily as you could be with a giant asteroid about to fall on you.
yeah. Though I saw some people say that like Secret Wars took place in 1998 over in the X-Men in the Spider-Man show. So technically this could be from before it, but like you said, Beau DeMayo said he found her and everything. So I do think that is
Yeah.
the intent behind the scene here. Because I don't know why
Mm-hmm.
else you wouldn't just show him as Spider-Man. So I do think he clearly wanted to show this is Peter and MJ. They're together at the very end of
Mm-hmm.
what they might think is civilization right now. They are together,
Yeah.
spending time together. Um, yeah,
And if they don't renew the series or get anything like that, it was a 1 second moment that provided closure for a lot of
right.
people who were pretty pissed off about that ending. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had we had those scenes with all the cameos showing what they're doing, which was great. Um some of them really took me by surprise. Like we talked about Cloak and Dagger showing up. Just so many cool.
Mhm.
I was even shocked they decide to show Strange. I know we talked about the magic
Yeah.
showing up, but like him just like doing surgery and doing the magic and stuff was really cool.
Yeah.
I was really surprised about Iron Man actually. I don't know why, but I was like, wow, he's there with Cap. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, in the old suit too and
Yeah,
everything. The one from his actual series. It's yeah, no, they it's a nerd's dream, especially a nerd who loved all those shows back in the
and
day.
we got Mr. Fantastic. That was Morph
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
dressing as Mr.
Yep.
Fantastic while he's trying to hold on. But yeah, so this episode kind of started off with let's talk about the resolution of Magneto. This episode kind
Mhm.
of starts off with of what we think is maybe a flashback of
Mhm.
Magneto and Charles at a bar during one of their first meetings, or during the time where Charles reveals that he is a mutant to uh, to Magnus, as he calls him, and we then learn it's actually just him kind of projecting this to try to get Magneto to wake up and do the right thing, right? It's kind of his
Mhm.
goal the whole time. He's like, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it, right? Like, I'm going to force
Mhm.
you to do it.
Mhm.
And it does come out that he does have to do that. It
Yeah.
wipes them out for a bit. They're kind of out of commission for a little bit there. Um, but like you said, he will turn and
Yeah.
when Asteroid M is crashing, he is able to help it get back into the sky before they are whisked away.
Mhm.
We'll get to that cliffhanger, but you kind of alluded to it. This is not what you wanted originally last week, but you felt like they stuck the landing on this part.
I did because what I didn't want, just to reiterate for people, was for Charles to go into his mind and is instantly able to just appeal to his better angels, and he's just, oh my god, what have I done? I have to fix all this. Like it takes some real work from Charles, and he does ultimately end up having to force Magneto to do it against his will. And the real like coming together moment of Charles and Magneto is more about Magneto kind of like piecing together his own emotions and those feelings of like not being not feeling accepted and like feeling like everybody left him and like having to basically piece Magneto's mind back together while also like reminding him of all those things was really cool. But at the same time, he didn't just jump off his morals the second Charles, again tried appealing to those better angels. Like he goes into his mind and they have that big moment where everything just goes nuts and that energy flashes out. I have a theory about that, by the way. um and then we get a lot of really like poignant scenes between the two that speak more on the depth of their relationship and stuff, as opposed to just that tropey, oh my god, look what you've done, again, not to sound repetitive. But it was again not the way last week that I would have liked them to handle it, but when you see how the whole thing plays out in totality with the rest of the stuff that happened in the episode, I was more than okay with it.
Yeah,
And also, I guess just really, I just not
yeah,
to keep hogging all the time here, but I guess I'll just kind of go into my theory really quick. So we've been teasing the onslaught thing, what feels like weeks now. Obviously, we didn't get it in this episode, but there's all that energy that was going around when Charles goes into Magneto's mind, and then he loses all of this part of his mind, right? That Charles has to basically go in and help him rebuild. But all of that energy had to go somewhere. All of that negativity, all of the bad side, of Magneto had to go somewhere. I think it went into space, and Bastion, when he gets kind of jettisoned out with all the other Sentinels, I think what he's going to do is sort of clutch on to that energy, or maybe the energy makes its way to him, and it's going to be sort of an alternate take on Bastion, whereas it's or alternate take on Onslaught, where it's actually Bastion merging with this sort of like negative side of Charles and Magneto as a way to uh, make that story better fit what's actually going on in this show. There's also a lot of trying to appeal to Bastion's like human side in this episode, and obviously they ultimately are not able to. So the fact that Charles is able to get to Magneto in that way in the end, and they are not able to with Bastion at the end, kind of feels like the two sides of the same coin thing. So it would be weirdly fitting for him to take on that sort of negative energy from Magneto. Could be totally wrong, but it's just,
Interesting.
harebrained theories. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did like that they were that the Magneto issue was resolved. Which felt like pretty quickly for like the first part. Charles taking over his brain and getting that out of the way so that way we can take down Bastion. And then at the end, Magneto waking up and making uh that save there. Because as people have pointed out, he's really only the antagonist in the original show for like 2 episodes. And the
Yeah.
rest of the show he's like mostly partnered with him. Like the whole Savage Land arc, him and Charles are what is that, season 2, I think? So the whole Savage Land arc where they're stuck on.
Is it? I thought it was season
It
one.
might be
I could be
season 1.
totally
I watched them all in a row, so it's all the
same.
same
That's
season.
why they just all bleed together. Yeah. Yeah, it's all one giant season. Yeah.
So like that, he was like working with Charles all the time. I was kind of surprised at how much with the intro, you have them constantly beefing in that intro, colliding, and then they don't in the show that much. So I'm kind of glad we went back to the roots of that here, but like that he is constantly validated, I think,
Mhm.
with like we said with Cooper, right? When she's like Magneto was right, and he's
Val.
been validated in that, but it doesn't mean the actions he
He's
takes.
been
Yeah,
validated.
it doesn't mean the actions he takes are validated, right? And I think uh, he will always kind of pull back a little bit when Charles is in his ear or in his head, I guess. And
Yeah.
it worked. It worked for me, and it had to work because there's no other way to get out of this mess. I don't think really like. The whole time I was really wondering where they were going to go at the end of the show because you have Cyclops saying goodbye to Cable, right? And
Mhm.
then I'm thinking like maybe they do sacrifice Cyclops, like maybe he will die. He is willing to, but they're like, no, we got
Mhm.
other plans. They all are working together to try to save this asteroid from crashing. And I was really perplexed. I'm like, what? How is this going to work? And then, other than Magneto waking up, and really, that's the only
Yeah.
way that you can kind of get out of this mess. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it all really
But
worked.
it felt
It
natural. It
did.
didn't feel forced.
It's not like Superman snapping Zod's neck, and you're like, oh, that felt natural. That this is the way we wrote him into this corner.
Yeah. No, it was great. It was great. I guess just kind of moving on from that a little bit. Shall we talk about the Phoenix of it all to get me a little more excited here?
Yeah, yeah. So over on the original island, right? Bastion comes out. He is uh remade, right? Like he's kind of evolved a little bit, and he smashes the collar that they were going to put on him. And at this point, they've supposedly killed Jean underwater, right? She's thrown into the lake or whatever. Cable is about to get shot, and Sinister. This is when Sinister kind of throws his fit of, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! You said he would be my prize," and they're like, "Oops, my bad." Like,
Sorry, gotta
sorry,
kill
gotta
him.
kill him. And just as they're about to is when you have and also the rest of the X-Men are there too that were on the island. Beast is tied up,
Mhm.
right? Like Storm is tied up, Forge, all that.
Mhm.
Nightcrawler. Um, no, Nightcrawler was on the asteroid.
He was on.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, he
gonna
was
say
up
because
there.
like
Yeah.
if he gets captured, he can just teleport out, right? Uh,
Yeah, it was Gene, Cable, Forge, Beast, and Storm were the ones down
yes.
there.
So they are watching as they're about to kill Cable, and then the Phoenix rises, Doesn't stay for
Mm,
long, but is able to rise and kind of pull a Magneto on Sinister, stripping
mhm.
him away of the DNA that he's collected over the years to keep himself young. So you had like the twisted version of it, Magneto, last week with the adamantium, right? And then this week with the DNA that the Phoenix is ripping out.
Yep. And it just kind of to put the cherry on top of everything we talked about with Jean's story last week and the everything that led up to it. She makes reference of like, oh, the Phoenix came to me so I could have the power to save my son. And the fact that like now that her and Madeline are one, and like I feel like that's the reason why she is able to harness the Phoenix power without it like overtaking her. And the fact that like her sort of mental and again, this is just how I took it. That her mental clarity is what allows her to use the darkest part of her and like use it for good. It just very much a fitting cherry on top to all that. And that this was once I stopped crying, this was the this was a moment that I was a little afraid of. Like I mentioned about the soft landing thing, I was a little afraid that they were just going to pull the Phoenix card and be like, "Oh, that's how the whole day gets saved." Phoenix is going to reverse everything. And I'm glad that they gave us Jean fans that moment to have her, become the Phoenix and take out Sinister and really close up her arc for the season. But then to have it go away and not let them just be able to use that to solve all the problems. It was like we got a little taste of it, but they didn't just railroad it into the story to be an easy end, an easy means to an end, I guess I should say.
Yeah, like because she can be overpowered as the Phoenix, and you don't want that. And I thought maybe that's how they would wrap up Bastion, right? Like, because then she
Mm-hmm.
refuses the collar, puts it on his head like a crown almost, right? And it like severs his connection to the Prime Sentinels. But he is still an issue after that because he grabs Cable's arm and kind of like uses it to make a new layer of himself, right? Like a new protective layer of himself and wings. And then he heads to the asteroid. He's like, see you guys, like I'm out of here.
Such a cool design.
It was, yeah, it was really cool. And that's how we get to the final battle taking place on Asteroid M. And during this final battle, um, there was some times I thought maybe we would lose some people. I'm glad we didn't. I know once Gambit died, everybody was kind of like, "Oh, like we're going to," and he said about how 8, 9, and 10 is Beau DeMayo said it's like his magnum opus, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think people thought we were going to lose a lot more people, but I'm glad we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, you still have Logan, who's out of commission. We have no idea how he's doing. Charles and Magneto, whatever you want to call him, Eric, is out of commission as well. So we're left with the core group of the original Blue group, which was Cyclops, Rogue, Sunspot, Jubilee, Nightcrawler.
That was
That
it.
was it.
You got him. Yeah.
And then, so they're taking on Bastion first as he breaks through the windshield here. And Jubilee, man, she sometimes you wonder what her powers can really do. Like Bastion's that put, well, you're gonna take me out the July 4th
With the
of
Fourth of
July or
July.
whatever.
Yeah.
But no, she can do some really cool stuff with what she was doing. Put a nice spin on it. You have Sunspot actually saying his name, right? He's like, "No, I'm Sunspot," and he's like claiming that mantle and being an
Mm-hmm.
X-Man now. So that really worked. I know I saw some people complain briefly about like, oh, there was like it happened real quick that Rogue and Sunspot rejoined the X-Men. What I mean, look, they lost,
How?
right? They lost the
Yeah.
Magneto
What
battle.
was it? What part of the asteroid hurling towards Earth and the all sentient life ending cyborg mutant thing in front of you would lead you to believe that they'd still be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't know if we should do this. Like, come on.
And I think they can look at what I don't think they condone what Magneto did to Logan. So I do think they were probably like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Back on Team Blue is what they.
Yeah. Yeah. Legit. But like yeah, Jubilee's part was great. Rogue, this might have been my favorite Rogue fight scene ever. Like
Yeah.
when she runs it, when she just comes charging in. His name was Gambit, remember it, and just clocks him right in
It
the
just keeps
face. And like
going. She's
it
like bam,
felt,
bam, bam, like really
yeah.
nice.
And she does the thunderclap right in his face and everything. I was just like, oh yeah, mama, work it. And then, oh god, that was the first moment that I was like, oh no, is she toast? And then they gave us one with Nightcrawler after that, where you're like,
Oh yeah, where
and
he
they
just
give you the
keeps
Jubilee
appearing
one.
behind him and like slashing and stuff. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it was great.
it felt very like when Peter is punching Thanos and he's just and he
Going
grabs
through the
him and
portals,
slams him.
yeah.
Yes, I was like, oh god, is Nightcrawler about to get smushed? But he didn't, thankfully. But yeah, that the entire fight with them, and then Cyclops doing the you're never gonna hurt me or my family, and just
Oh
the
yeah,
like
the
mecha
mecha
beam.
burst,
Oh my,
yeah.
oh dude, oh my god! Like I know we're just rattling off scenes and saying how good they are, but it's the inner nerd coming out, man, because it was truly a spectacle.
I mean, sometimes that's all you can do, right? Like sometimes that's all
Yeah,
you can do is you look at what they've
yeah,
done and you're like, wow, that's that's great. Like,
yeah.
no notes, right?
You want us to break down the
Yeah,
choreography of the animated fight? Yeah, no, it was just amazing, man, breathtaking. It really was.
yeah. And then they appeal to Bastion, right?
Try
They
to
try
at
to,
least.
and he kind of laughs this off, and uh, I love how he's like talking about family, and he's like, "Well, here's mine," because he thinks the Sentinel's coming in for him, and it's Beast and Forge who had hijacked this thing and just smash him. And at first, I was like, "Oh my god, is he actually like dead from that? Like, is that it?"
Oh no, I didn't think for a
No. Then
second.
he
No.
starts getting
If
up.
anything, I was afraid for the Sentinel or the people that were in the Sentinel.
Yes,
I was like, oh god.
but yeah, it's the group from the beach. They're here now, and oh, Morph was another one that was on the beach that I
Oh
forgot
right,
about. Sorry.
right. Yeah.
Um, and then the battle will continue here on the ship as he continues to try to push the Sentinel's foot up, and you have Beast like trying to push it back down. I love Beast so much. He's one of my favorite X-Men. Um, so funny that he's like one of the first ones in the MCU right now with the whole Kelsey Grammer part again. That's wild, but
Yeah.
especially this iteration of Beast, I really enjoy him a lot. The voice actor nails it, and it's like anytime I anytime I read a comic, this is the Beast voice I hear
Oh yeah.
in my head when he's doing his speech bubbles. I'm like, this is who I hear. I know some people it's
Yep.
Kelsey Grammer, but he was only in Last Stand. For me, it's this voice of Beast.
Hey, he was in 2 seconds of Days of Future Past too. I'll have you know.
He didn't speak though.
Oh, he
Did he?
did. He says like "Hello, Logan" or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
they
that.
probably cut
When
that
he's
from like Last Stands. Like put that back in there and run it through.
no, it was at the end when they when Logan's back at the school and like all like kind of everything he realizes that everything's okay and he's just walking by with his book and his suit like walking to
Yeah,
class.
yeah,
It's a total throwaway thing, yeah, but it was fun. But yes, this is very much the Beast that I read as well for sure.
yeah. Um, so,
The oh dear at that
oh,
way
at the
end of the
end, oh
episode,
my god, that got me
like
so
the
good.
comedic timing. I just started. It's like supposed to be this serious moment, and they end you off with that one last little moment of joy of just getting a little laugh.
Yes, which we'll talk about very shortly. So they start taking care of Bastion. Boom. Right? And then we get the issue of the while they're up there fighting, the president has Magneto protocols. And President Kelly, who's been on the mutant side for quite a while now, has to decide if he's going to pull the trigger or not on blowing up the asteroid. My question is, what is the benefit of this? Like, the biggest benefit is that it would blow into a million chunks. When that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, it's an Age of Ultron level event of like this thing crashing to the
Yep.
ground and ending all life. Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it. They were handling it.
Yeah. I don't know really what they hoped to accomplish either. Because like the asteroid at that point was, at least the way that I took it, was well within the Earth's atmosphere at that point. So even if you blow the thing up, it's still coming down. It's just going to come down in like a bunch of different places as opposed to one. And maybe they thought that that would help like sort of mitigate the direct damage to Earth or something. But either way, a big risk, especially like none of you Avengers were going to get up there. I know that most of the characters they showed were very like street level, but like Thor, Strange, Iron Man, you guys aren't going to fly up and do anything. Like it just, I don't know. I think they have set up for a hell of an Avengers versus X-Men if they want to in future seasons with this. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little too busy in season 2 to do
Yes,
this.
that'll be 3.
Yeah, so either 3 or Onslaught's 3, right? Like, there's they got their hands full if they want to keep going. They have tons of opportunities story wise to what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, it seems like they
Yep.
let them use any character they want. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's great. Like seriously,
This confirmed it. Literally
nobody's off
nobody is
limits.
off
Yeah.
limits.
Well, and why does the American get the say in this? None of the other countries have a say on if the planet's about to end. They're like, yeah,
Well, they did. They had the one guy
yeah,
who said there was like one. I don't know what country what he's from. I never want to assume just based off the accent. But there was at least one other person that was like in support of him doing this, and I think that's probably ultimately why he did. I'm guessing the UN was like breathing down his
right,
neck and
right.
being like, "We got to do something." And we get a mention later about how somebody's running against him in the
Yes.
presidency, like on the radio. So this could be, like we see a lot of politicians do around election time. Like now's when they actually do stuff, as opposed to the other 3 years when they kind of don't. So it very much could have been the added pressure from that as well. Even like you said, going against Captain America, basically telling him not to, and we don't know what's on this asteroid, yada yada yada, so on and so forth.
Yeah, Cap's pretty much like, you don't know what can happen if you blow this thing up, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, oh well, we're gonna see. We're gonna learn today.
Well, and I think it creates such an interesting dynamic if they want to go the Avengers versus X-Men route. Like if the mutants hate have a grudge against the Avengers, and like meanwhile or I guess really Steve in general, because they've at least the way that like Rogue has seen it and everything, he's kind of like the lapdog, right, quote unquote, so to speak, for the government. So they would obviously assume that the Avengers, or at least Steve, had a pretty big part in that. And meanwhile, he was the only one in the room saying not to. So like that conflict is going to be very interesting in how that all like kind of plays out.
Yes, and as it is going down and crashing here, the X-Men try their best to reverse this, and they have a little success, but it's not until Magneto wakes up and is able to lift it back up into the sky. And at this point, Jubilee, Sunspot, and Forge are on the ground. They have gotten off. And while that is happening, they're looking up and watching this thing get reversed and going up. And everybody's cheering, right? The fan, they love the X-Men again.
Dude, oh my, I literally I'm not gonna do it because I've been trying to swear less on this show, but I literally, when they show the picture of the room of all the politicians standing up and cheering, I literally just went, oh F you, only I didn't say F. I just like, oh my god, like, yeah, pat yourselves on the back,
Yeah.
guys, great effing job, like, give me a break.
Yeah, it's like watching like when NASA lands something and they all start clapping. But that's deserved because they actually do this stuff. But like
Yeah, they
the
actually
UN
did it, yeah.
people were like, we were just trying to blow this up,
Yeah, yeah.
and we failed. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that was wild. At least the people on the street were very pro X-Men at this point.
Yeah.
And then it disappears, and you wonder what just happened. I
Can I tell you what originally went through my
I
head?
saw your tweet. Go ahead and share it to the class here.
So we have gotten, oh god, share it with the class. You too? No. So my initial thought when this happened, like there's been not even rumors, more just people having theories out there that this X-Men team was going to be the X-Men team in or what we saw at the end of the Marvels with Beast, and this would be the team that comes in and is sort of the MCU's version of the X-Men, and we have been adamantly against that on this show, just because it's great that it's in its own universe and that you don't have to worry about what else anybody else is
Yeah, and
doing.
can I
And
just add something here too? It's like
sure, sure.
things can be their own thing. Like that's fine. We don't
Yep.
always need connections. But
Mm-hmm.
people always look for these connections. Like I don't know, people watching Into the Spider-Verse and they're like, "Oh, there's the one from PS4. When does this take place
Yeah.
in the PS4 game? Oh, is it after?" It's like none of it's a cool nod. Like it is
Yeah.
does not matter.
No. Yeah. No, I agree completely. And it just there's there's no point to doing that. This is such a great thing. There's no reason to go ahead and change it. And like again, we already knew ahead of this that a season 2 of this show was coming and all that stuff. So we felt pretty good that that wasn't going to be the case. But there was that split second when that thing disappears, and then Forge makes like the mention of like, oh, they've been pulled through time, and it was just like, oh no, oh no. Like if this thing ends with like all of them like the cartoon pulls away from their bodies and they're all like live action actors, I was gonna jump out my
And
window.
Jonathan
So I'm glad.
Majors is there, and he was like, "Hello."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh man, that would be quite the way to bring him back, huh? No, God, please
That
no.
was the
Um,
reveal of we actually signed him to a long-term deal.
yeah.
No, that never went
So
through
yeah,
my
very glad
mind.
they
That
didn't
never
do
went through my mind. I am 100% certain that this is never going to touch
it. Me
the
too.
MCU. And same. I'll say the same thing for Into the Spider Verse too. I know sometimes you've been
Mhm.
a little bit more on the fence of that. I think like I've seen people want that Miles to be our Miles in the MCU, and I don't want that. It's okay to have adaptations of things. Like it is totally
Mhm.
okay to have separate adaptations that I don't want to say get ruined later on, but what I mean by that is like I want to be able to watch the Spider-Verse trilogy and have that be my trilogy that I can watch. Like I
Yep.
don't want it to be like, oh, and then I have to jump over to Secret Wars and watch how he ends. And while I love having Toby and Andrew in No Way Home, that's a fun moment. It does create a conundrum for me when I'm like, how do I watch the MCU now? When do I insert Spider-Man 1 through 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2? Like, I don't want that all the time. I don't want to like
Yeah.
have to worry about that. It's like when they were adding Keaton in the Flash. I'm like, okay, so now does the DCEU start with Batman 89? Like,
Yeah.
like when they make it clear it is like the same version of something, I'm like, that's fine. It's fun for like certain things, but sometimes I think fans get bogged down too much into canon. And here's the thing: we saw, Ron, that while this show is doing well, it was not watched as much as Echo so far.
Mhm.
If you try to introduce these X-Men into the movie, people who don't watch animation will be like, "What? What is this?
Yeah.
What am I watching?"
Yeah. These cartoon characters are now like, I knew Marvel was hokey, but what is this?
Yeah,
Like it
right,
just
yeah.
yeah. Give the people who have taken joy in like hating on Marvel these last few years all the ammo they need to point at and be like MCU dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It also just affects the continuity of great little stories like the Spider-Man references you made. Although I think actually that's a bad not a bad example for what I'm trying to say because I really did enjoy their inclusion. But there's been a lot of stories that like they'll be told and they'll be very complete, and then they'll go back, whether it's like a reboot season of a show or like an unnecessary fourth movie in a trilogy that goes in like whether it undoes things that have been done in that trilogy or changes
Perfect
them, and it just
example. Perfect example. I am not a Will and Grace fan, all right? But
mhm,
like I know the Will and Grace lore, all right? So if we want to call it lore,
oddly specific.
right? My grandmother watched the show. So like I know when the
Ah, okay.
finale happened, some people were happy with it, some people weren't, blah blah blah. What, like 10 years later they get a new season and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're ignoring the finale." And I'm like, "What? Like why are we touching this stuff? Why are we?
Tim
Yeah.
Robinson.
What? Why are we
What?
touching this stuff? Like that is what drives me nuts. So now you can say, well, this is a revival. Yes, and this revival has knocked it out of the park, but they're not ignoring anything that they touch. It's not like they're coming back and like, well, we didn't like that Charles went into space, so we're ignoring that. They stuck with
Mm.
it. They made it work better, and we can have this. People can watch this show without watching the other show and still get most of the great character work that is done, and it can stay its own thing of just, hey, watch X-Men the animated series and then watch X-Men 97. If you feel like it, watch Spider-Man the animated series, but really
Mhm.
you don't need any of that. Like, this is how you can do cameos with all these characters without being like, what, did I have to watch the Iron Man cartoon, or did I have, like,
Yeah.
none of that matters. It was like, they're in real situations that matter, and that's it. I don't need this iteration of the characters in live action. What I want is them to take what works in animation and put it into live action. Take the same team,
Mhm.
take characters that work, take the suits that work, whatever you want to do, the character work. Take some of that stuff and put it in there. You know what it's like? It's like when they took Heart of Ice from Batman the Animated Series and has now made that
Mhm.
retroactively Mr. Freeze's history. Yeah,
Origin.
and
Yeah.
you're like,
Yep.
yeah, because they nailed it, right? Like, that's what I want them
Yeah.
to do for X-Men is like, okay, take whatever worked in this show, but translate that to live action. I don't want,
Mhm.
like you said, to see this thing where like, what's going on? And then they turn into live
Yeah.
action.
Whoa. Yeah. Oh man, I that would be the worst day of my life. That really would. I would be
And then it's
so
like, how do
upset.
I watch this? Do I watch X-Men 97 season 1 and then I go to the Secret Wars and I go to season 2? Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And then what? Yeah, Secret Wars ends and they're back to turning into comics
I'm
again. Oh
back
my
to a
god.
cart.
Or cartoon. Yeah. And they make us wait like 4 years for season
Yeah.
2 of this show just because they got to do all that first. Like, ignore all the apocalypse stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah. So let's get into that. Let's get into the
Well,
cliffhanger
speaking
here.
of, yeah.
So a lot of our we just went on a tangent that doesn't matter because this show is not connecting. But we wanted
Yeah.
to share why we don't want it to connect. And it's for stuff like this. This little tease, they did the finale cliffhanger perfectly for me because they wrapped up everything that we had and they set the stage for the next season. And that setting the stage of the next season still ties into this season. There is a post-credit scene that we'll talk about that ties into events that happened this year, which works perfectly. Um, so I thought this kind of stuff would have been maybe the post-credit scene. When you said there was a post-credit scene, I was like, oh, maybe it'll be like this. But no, it is like this is the full ending of the scene, and it
Mm-hmm.
went on longer. I thought maybe they would end it in the ancient Egypt part, but they even go to the summers.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so let's talk about it. That this show has split the crew up into two locations that we know of so far. And it is the far future and it is the far past. And they go and help somebody that needs help. And we learn it is, of course, Apocalypse before he is full
En
Apocalypse.
Sabanor.
Yes,
Yes.
and the way he delivered that too was great.
Oh.
And my question to you is
Mhm.
from Beast's Oh Dear, I do think he at least recognizes what this is, right? That
Mhm.
maybe this is Apocalypse here with the that's how I
Well,
took it. But some
they all know him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they know his name and everything.
Do
Yeah.
they
Oh,
know
they
his
they
name
all know.
itself?
Once he pulls the thing
And
down
he's
and you
got the
could
same
see
face?
his,
Yeah, it'd be like, all right, I know who this is, right?
they knew. They most definitely knew. We're charting into very interesting territory here. One that, like we've seen them do pretty much this entire time through this show, is going to be an amalgamation of Frankenstein's monster, if you will, of like so many different comics of the actual original X-Men run of Age of Apocalypse. Like, it's going to be really good. Honestly, given me kind of Kang the Conqueror vibes. We've got this past version of Apocalypse, and we've got the one that we'll talk about in present time in a second. and then we've got this future timeline, which I'll kind of break down now for you guys. So we see that Scott and Jean are pulled into this future. I think it's, what is the 3960 AD is the exact date. I wrote it down here. But they get pulled into the future by Mother Ascani, who they didn't say it in the show, but we know is Rachel Summers, a future version of Rachel Summers from the Days of Future Past storyline, probably the most notable version. Basically what happens is in Days of Future Past, she comes into this timeline, and after that event, she stays here, and she teams up. She forms like Excalibur with like Captain Britain and all them, and she ends up sacrificing herself to save Captain Britain, and her persona basically like splits in two. One goes into the past, and the other goes into the future, 100 years after Apocalypse has taken over the world. And she, this is the version that we saw at the end of the episode. She forms Clan Ascani as basically like a way to, I guess, combat sort of Apocalypse's reign, to sort of be the Rebel Alliance, so to speak, if you will, not to take a phrase from Star Wars. But I was really excited when we saw this in particular, because one of my favorite, like, shorter kind of X-Men stories of all time is a 4-issue miniseries called The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. It's a 4-issue run from the mid 90s where basically this exact thing happens. Mother Ascani pulls Scott and Jean into the future to help her basically train Nathan to then be able to go and fight Apocalypse and basically end the reign that he has in the current present timeline. So it's really cool, and it seems like that's going to be one of the main story draws for at least that end of things. And then we've got all the other prehistoric stuff that I mentioned, like I said, Age of Apocalypse, and all that other good stuff. So it is, dude, my mind was toast, like just trying to absorb all of this at the end of the episode, literally.
What was the year again for the future?
The future was 3960 AD.
Okay, yes. So in the Beyond Good and Evil parts 1 through 4, Cable was in 3999. So this is about 30 years before then that he is attacking Apocalypse and goes back in time and all that kind of stuff. So that was the season finale of season 4. So I would recommend people revisit that before season 2. You probably got a bit, but I would say revisit that, see how that goes. I'm excited to get Apocalypse again, and you mentioned it, the post-credit scene. He is on Genosha, and he pulls the Queen of Hearts or Queen of Diamonds?
Queen of Hearts.
And it is Gambit's card, and he references death. This is definitely going to where we thought it was throughout the season, of maybe he's going to be one of the Apocalypse Horsemen's, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he was in the comics.
Yes. Yep. In the comics, it's a little different, obviously. He joins Apocalypse like willingly in the comic. Mystique pulls like some shady shit and like breaks up him and Rogue, so he's having a really tough time. And this is like right off the heels of House of M. And Apocalypse comes back and he's like, I'm basically going to be the savior of the mutants. And Gambit like willingly agrees and sides with him. And that's when he ends up becoming Death. So obviously this is going to be much different, but equally awesome for sure. I'm just wondering if they'll give him the comic design or if they'll go like that sort of Scully look that we saw when Xavier sees the huge version of him after he passes away. I wonder if we'll get a more updated kind of spooky design like that.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to. I definitely want to go ahead and read this. I haven't read Age of Apocalypse. Bad fan, I know. So I want to read.
Well, that wasn't him. That
no,
wasn't
I know.
Age of Apocalypse.
I know. I want to read that for this, but then I do want to dive into, like you said, because that one's after House of M. So I want to dive into that one too.
Yeah, that's just the mainline X-Men series. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to look up specific issues for that.
I do have some theories on who the other horsemen are going to be, though.
A lot of people do because we missed some characters. Wolverine's been a horseman before,
Mhm.
hasn't he? And then
He has.
some people
That's how he ends up. That's how he ends up getting his adamantium back.
exactly right, and he doesn't have it. So it does seem like that's the way that they're probably going to go. We don't know where he's currently at. He was
Mhm.
not in one of those scenes. And then we also, I saw some people speculate Storm. Does she have a history of that or no?
Uh, I think she has been one, but it's not like super prominent.
Was she in the? Okay, so I only watched Age of Apocalypse once. Was she one of them in that?
Yes, she was
Okay,
in the
that's
movie.
where I
Yep.
thought so. That okay.
Yeah. And so the another one of my choices is also from that movie, Archangel. I think we saw a little bit of him in the original animated series, and it
Yes.
just kind of feels like a layup option for him to be one. I also have Fabian Cortez.
Hmm.
So Beau DeMayo obviously told us that the homework to watch in ahead of this episode was Sanctuary Part 1 and 2, which is basically Fabian Cortez's most like notable moment in the animated series, with everything he does to Magneto and stuff like that. But after that, the last time we see him in the animated series is he's basically like Apocalypse's like whipping boy, and he's basically sending him out and trying to get him to find a body for Apocalypse to inhabit. I think he ends up actually inhabiting Cortez's body, so I think he'll be one. And the other obvious one who we didn't see this season is Raven Mystique.
Yes, she wasn't in this season at all.
Not even mentioned. Literally not mentioned.
Well, alluded to, right? Because they,
Was
I
she?
mean, they talk about Rogue's mom and Nightcrawler's mom, and that's her. So
I guess.
there was
Yeah, I
some
guess so.
allusion there.
Some brief allude, I guess, but I just not a name reference, like not a specific name drop or anything like that that I can recall. At least I could be totally wrong.
They may have mentioned her as their like in passing due to that relationship, but yeah, they didn't like say, "Hey, she's now living on the moon and she's doing it." Like
Yeah.
they don't mention her at all.
Well, and probably for good reason because it seems like they wanted us to play into the is Val Cooper Mystique thing. So the less that they mention her and
Yeah,
stuff, and just it seems like it's like, huh, are they intentionally omitting her for that reason so that we'll continue to think, okay, it's Val? Because Beau DeMayo himself was even kind of playing into that a little bit on Twitter in the the weeks leading up to when it was revealed that it wasn't her, that it is just Val's a regular person.
yeah. So it does seem like maybe what we're going to have here is two um con- concurrent storylines going on for at least the first arc
Mm-hmm.
of some of these characters. Well, three storylines. We got some in the future, some in the past, and then in the present you have Forge looking for all of the X-Men and looking for new mutants to join the team.
Yes, Forge and Bishop's big adventure, as I kind of like to talk,
Yeah,
as
because
I like
Bishop
to say.
arrives. We've been wondering where he is, and he walks in and he's like, "Hey, I'm here to tell you that they're actually all fine." It's kind of what he
Yeah,
alludes to, right? Like,
yeah. He's got his Charlie Kelly crazy board on the wall. He's
yeah.
sitting there smoking his Pepe Sylvia, Pepe Sylvia. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because he does have future knowledge, right? So he can come in and be like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I know exactly where they are, if he does know.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so I have a question for you then, because they say goodbye to Nathan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, my folks were pretty okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, we do see Nathan younger again, but before it seemed like he had some daddy issues, mommy issues from being left in the future without seeing them. But now we do see he did see them as a kid, but maybe it's because this is changing. Maybe it's changing things, right? Or has this
Mm-hmm.
always happened in Nathan's timeline?
Uh, no, I don't think it's always happened. Like there's his always like his big enemy has always been Apocalypse. So yeah, I guess that has always happened. But in terms of like the pulling Scott and Jean to the
Yes, yeah,
future and
that
all that
part, yeah.
stuff, no, I don't believe that is like a thing that always so and so happens. Or maybe it's a thing I forget exactly. Maybe it's a thing where like his memory is wiped
Mm,
and like that's why something along I'd hate to sit here and act like I knew exactly, because I don't. But yeah, I don't believe I don't believe that, like, the Cable that we saw come back that was trying to save Madeline, that Cable had no knowledge of what we're about to see actually take place with Madam Mother Ascani and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's just when you do time travel, it can get in that tricky situation of, you know,
Yeah,
does he
especially
remember
the X Men.
this?
So much of it.
Yeah, does he remember this, or did this always happen? Or obviously, probably not, because this will be the time that they maybe stop Apocalypse, right? So, like, th- there's stuff in play with that.
Yeah, they've almost gotta expand on it a little bit. Let us know, at least just give us the general rules of it, whether it's a like alternate timelines thing, more kind of not saying in the sense where it's going to cross over with any of the other like
Yeah.
game. We won't go into that again, but like at least establish the rules of time travel for people to just at least be able to relatively follow along and keep up.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it always has to work, right? Because like
Mhm.
Cable and Bishop have always kind of gone back to try to stop something, and they do, but yet those characters still exist, right? So their
Yeah,
timeline at some point still has to happen if they're existing, or something else happens where then they go back in time, and yeah,
yeah,
just the
yes,
nature of it.
yeah. Very much. Just I don't know if they're doing it intentionally, leaving it vague like that, but I do hope it's something we get a little more clarification on in season 2.
Yeah. So I'll run it by again here. What characters we have where? We know for sure Cyclops and Jean are in 3960.
Mm-hmm.
We have Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Xavier, and Magneto in ancient Egypt in 3000 BC.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the present, we know Apocalypse is there along with uh, Forge, Bishop, Jubilee, Sunspot. We have no
Yep.
clue where Morph or Logan are. Morph, morphed into Jean Grey to say "I love you" to Wolverine to see if that would help maybe get him out of it. He kind of like mumbled or grunted, I guess, and that was it that we have from Logan so far.
Yeah.
And we don't know where Storm is.
Oh yeah, huh? I did not even realize that.
Yeah.
I just wow, yeah, I didn't
That's why
huh.
some think those three are horsemen along with
Oh,
Gambit.
shoot. Man, I really hope not. Oh, but that would make sense.
I
Oh
kind of want to
boy.
see Morph as a horseman, actually.
That would be cool. Yeah, because he could just become anybody. That would be a really interesting. But I feel like Storm got mega like I don't want to say sidelined because ultimately she got the whole life death thing, but it feels like we didn't really get like the full extent of Storm this season. So I don't want them to sideline her again as like a villain or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I would be fine with Morph, fine with Wolverine for the sake of giving him his adamantium back, but maybe like I don't know, maybe Storm is the one who's able to resist or something like that. However they want to spin it.
Yeah. I what I'll say is I think they didn't show us those characters for sure because they want us to wonder where they are. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's all. I don't know if that
Yeah.
really has to tie into who's a horseman, who's not a horseman, but I do think it's like we're gonna leave some of these characters' fates up in the air.
Yeah. So really, yeah, I guess I would probably throw those three all in with the same Bishop and uh, Forge like group. I guess they would like if you had a like the Earth group or the present group, the past group, and the future group. Like I guess all of them combined together sort of make their own group too, as opposed to it just being Forge and Bishop. Why do I keep doing that? In the in the main timeline.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about this episode specifically, or speculation for season 2 or anything? Because I know you had a lot of notes there.
Yeah, I think we actually got through all of them. Oh, I had one other part that I'll get to just I'll just throw it out there quick, I guess. The part where Scott is sitting next to Wolverine while he's recovering, and he says like, "Don't you break her heart?
Yeah.
Do what you do, heal." Like it was cool to see that kind of come full circle and see him be able to like to like I don't want to say use Gene, but like to use Gene
Share
as his
Gene.
way to share. Yeah, I guess that'd be a good way to to share Gene as a way to get through to him and like him being okay and feeling secure in doing that, even despite all the beef that those two have had. I thought was really cool.
Oh, he knows who Gene really picks. So
Hmm.
Cyclops
Yeah,
like, yeah, use my wife to wake up. I
do
know
it. You
she'll
know what,
come
more?
home to
Turn
me.
into her. Yeah. And as far as speculation goes, I mean, like I said, we're basically just throwing darts at the board and seeing which comic we hit because they're going to be pulling from it probably. The most notable one, like I said, was the Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix.
Yeah, I saw somebody else
Um,
say that one too. So
Really good. It's only 4 issues, dude. I definitely recommend checking it out. You probably read it for free online somewhere. It's that old.
well, I have it on.
Um,
I have Marvel Unlimited, so it should be on there, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
duh. Yeah, duh, 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 duh. Yeah. So, it just,
We
yeah,
don't
Age of
condone
Apocalypse. That,
piracy.
no, we don't.
We don't.
Cut that out. Cut that out. Shit. No. But yeah, they're going to be pulling on a lot of stuff. Mainline, Age of Apocalypse, that just go to probably a bunch that we haven't even thought of yet. So I'm super excited. And at this point, it's this show as a whole has been such a ride. These last couple months have been awesome. We've had so many great conversations about it in that time and just the way it's brought everybody together. It's one of those things, I said it on Twitter yesterday, that even though every season of this show is almost assured to be incredible and knock our socks off, you can never recapture that like first time feeling. And I don't think like it's going to be amazing, but don't hear me wrong. I'm not poo pooing the future seasons or anything like that by any means, but there's just a certain feeling your first time watching something, even though this technically isn't. It's a continuation of an original series, but for all intents and purposes, it is the first time. You can't recapture that feeling again. You can recapture the quality of the programming, but the way that it makes you feel inside when you watch it, you can't recapture that. You can't bottle it up. If you could sell it and bottle it up, somebody would be very rich out there.
That's what they're
So
always trying to do.
it's
That's what they're always trying to
yeah,
do when they do this stuff. I I agree. This is look, we were all looking forward to the show. I did not think it would be this great. So now future seasons have an issue because I do expect it to be this great. And if it isn't, then it's a little bit of a letdown, right? So like this season will
yeah.
always have that fondness of, hey, remember when that show came out and was like awesome? Like you know,
Blindsided us. Yeah,
blindsided us completely. Where like at first I'm like, oh, look, if I get a nice new intro out of this, I'll be pretty happy. We'll explore the original characters again. Great.
yeah. Get some fun little nostalgia bits. Yeah,
But the way that it was and just blew everything out of the water for me is great. Like I've seen that thing going around. What do you rate this out of 10? This is a 10 out of 10 for me.
it's a 10.
I don't
Yeah.
even care about like the Mojo episode. It's like whatever.
Mhm.
I I enjoy those type of side adventures sometimes. And it's like I knew at the end of it we only had 10 episodes and that they would build arcs to end this 10 episodes great, and they did. And to me that matters more than like, oh, one episode was kind of meh. It's like the rest of the episodes were amazing. That for
Mhm.
me it's a 10 out of 10 season. Absolutely blew my socks off. It's definitely one of those shows that I think going back now, um, there's just certain moments you always remember, right? Like I can remember, I'm a huge fan of
Remember it.
Lost. I can remember the day that premiered, and I go downstairs and first saw it on the TV, and I was like, wow, blown away. And that's kind of like this show. I feel like I'll always remember
Mhm.
like where I was when certain things happened, or how I felt when certain things happened, where I was watching it.
Mhm.
So it makes me feel great. This show was awesome. Hopefully, we don't have to wait 2 or more years to get the continuation of this.
Fingers crossed, man. We'll see. I'm with you 100%. Normally, like when I'm doing the scale of 1 to 10, I'll go 9, 9.5 on things that I really like, just because you got to leave a little bit of wiggle room. But there's no wiggle room needed here. This was perfect. I genuinely would not have changed a thing in hindsight. Just because the whole butterfly effect, you change one little thing, you never know what else it messes with. This presentation, this experience was perfect. And it just, I'm very thankful as a now 25 plus year fan of the X-Men that we got to experience this, truly.
Agree. Can't put it any better than that. So we'll start wrapping it up here. This show, like I said, incredible. One of my favorite projects that Marvel has done. Has surpassed. I've said it many times. Surpassed the original already for me. So this
Oh
has
yeah.
been great. Give us your thoughts. Send them to us in an email, marvelplusrecaps@gmail.com, or you can even send it to us on the social media, which on Twitter is @TO Infinity Saga. And also our Instagram and all that stuff is in the link tree that is in the links below or on your podcatcher. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. Comment as well what your thoughts were on the finale. Was it a 10 out of 10 for you? And yeah, maybe we'll do something special with this before season 2, like a book club type thing of, hey, maybe we read Age of Apocalypse again and then we discuss it
Yeah.
and say, how can they take this and this from, this into season 2, and kind of look into that kind of stuff. That can give us some homework to do as we wait for season 2.
That would be a load of fun, man. Sign me up.
Yeah, and don't forget, we'll be covering the new X-Men runs that are be coming out starting in July, just about 2 months away from that. And we will be, just it looks just like that. We're going to be, I think for the first one, we'll just talk X-Men 1, and then after that, we'll kind of talk about,
Mhm.
like an X-Men monthly episode where we're just talking about all X titles in that little bunch, mainly focused on X-Men and Uncanny X-Men.
Mhm.
Yeah. We will be still doing stuff here on the Marvel Pod, Ultimate Spider-Man recaps. We'll do occasional news drops and stuff. But if you really like where Ron and I will be heading next, it is in a galaxy far, far away. Over on our podcast, The Pod Awakens, we will be talking The Acolyte, which is dropping in about 2 weeks over on Disney Plus. So that's where we'll be over on The Pod Awakens. I might put the first episode on the podcast feed when we do our first recap, just so people can get a taste. And then if you want more of it, hop on over to Pod Awakens and continue following it over there so it doesn't clutter this feed on the podcast. But we're very excited for The Acolyte dropping early June. Recaps of that will be coming Wednesday nights, just like this show has been doing. We'll be recapping that over on the Pod Awakens Wednesday evenings. I'll be trying to get that up and turned around as soon as we're done recording. Yeah. We'll have some Elseworlds content. Supergirl got a release date, so my birthday will be pretty special in a couple years. So Chris and I will probably be talking about that in the next couple weeks, and talking some of the other stuff that we had originally planned before the Superman suit got revealed. So lots of stuff coming up here. This podcast, again, will be getting ready for Deadpool and Wolverine, which is coming out very, very shortly.
It's so crazy, dude. It feels like just yesterday we were talking like
The Super Bowl
last
trailer?
summer. Well,
Oh, yeah.
just like when we were talking last summer and just talking about, oh yeah, we got this little Marvel drought coming up, and like it's just we're already like we blinked and we're already on the other side of it, and we got this, and we got Deadpool coming, we got Agatha coming, we got all of this stuff coming, and all the Star Wars stuff. It's just like buckle up, man, because if you're into this stuff, it's a great time to be alive, and we only hope that you will stick with us all and continue to follow along.
I thought you were going to say we can only hope that you stay alive as we
Yep.
get through this content.
As long as you can, that's all you can try to do.
Yeah, so like I said, hit up those social medias, send us your feedback. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time, which I think would be for Ultimate Spider-Man, bearing any future news that drops. But thank you all again. Have a great rest of your week.